Sit back, relax. Try to maintain your composure. You are about to become connected.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Connect podcast number 23. 23. So we've come a long way and we've done a lot of good things with our life. And look at us now. Look at us now.
Blossoming.
Well, you can't. You can only hear us now. But I'll tell you what, we look pretty good.
Yes, that's true. Isn't it, Mum?
So what are we doing this Easter Saturday? Why is it Easter Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? Well, it's not
Jesus
Easter
is
Friday.
still sleeping at the moment.
You know,
He'll come back tomorrow.
My mother actually fucking got angry at me because she was like, how I wrote that post on Facebook saying, why should I be inconvenienced if because someone died 2013 years ago? And Mum was like, I sent you to a Catholic boys' school, Sean. You should know that Jesus didn't die 2013 years ago. He died 1980 years ago because he was 33 when he died.
Yeah, but who cares?
I know, but I was like, I actually forgot. That was when he was born.
If that's all the problem she had with that statement, then she missed the point.
BC AD is 0.
It's after.
After
no,
death.
BC is
After
0,
death.
but I think...
That must have sounded so stupid.
But they say, though, that that's not anything factual like that, because they don't actually have any historic evidence of him living, apart from the Bible. They don't know when he died. It's just a hypothetical date. And if he was 31 or whatever when he died, then let's just say...
They wrote it in a... They made a whole book about it. Like, when he died, and him dying. The whole book's about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's got to have got that right, surely.
Well, I mean, isn't it debated, though, that he may not be a real character? That's the thing.
Well, how can you tell if anyone's a character in a 2,000-year span?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not...
I mean, what is the time limit of when someone becomes a real character and when they don't?
I think do they regard the Bible evidence enough of historical, account of this man, Jesus, that lived? I think they do. And but there's just... Anyway, that was a fact.
But anyway, anyway, here we are on this podcast. We got a lot of good podcasts coming up, actually. We got one tomorrow. We're going to go and find one tomorrow.
No, that's on Monday.
But we got one tomorrow, don't we?
No, it's Sunday tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, we got one on Monday.
On Monday, we're going to go and speak with the Sea Shepherd crew who are hanging out in Williamstown for the next 2 weeks. They've just returned from a voyage in the high seas, heroes and warriors and defenders of the sea of ours.
They actually they did really well this time, didn't they?
I think they did.
If anyone doesn't know what the Sea Shepherd are, if anyone is over in America listening, which I know there are a few of you, and hello,
hey,
how you going? The Sea Shepherd is an Australian-based volunteer. Well, I think they pay the people a little bit, but is basically not really much reward for it. And then they go out and basically stop Japanese whaling ships from whaling humpback whales, from killing humpback whales, harpooning explosives into them, blowing them up, and then dragging them into a ship like half alive, and then
all in the name of scientific research.
And then just luckily they've got a lot of meat after that scientific research, and then they sell it to everyone in Japan. So the crazy thing is, though, there's apparently in the freezers in Japan there is a lot of dolphin and whale meat that's simply not being eaten because I think the population aren't consuming as much of it. Yeah. So because of moral reasons?
So what they're doing is, I'm not sure, but so what I think the Japanese government are doing is they're starting to subsidise the whale companies because they're having, they're not getting as much.
Yeah, they are subsidising the whale companies. They're like giving them free fuel on the whaling ships. So the Japanese, they're still pushing it, even though the industry is failing, they're still propping it up for some fucking unknown reason why they would want to go and kill massive animals
so
like that.
Crazy how that can happen.
It's unbelievable. Same as ivory, same as all this shit.
But when a whole country blatantly supports something that is so wrong,
well, they don't.
Just like
let's
get this
right. Let's get this right. Whole countries don't normally support this. Usually, it's the small few at the top for invested reasons.
No, but I'm talking about the label of a country. Japan.
Yeah, well, I mean, the government and the fishing industry.
I'm not saying every person. I'm saying the label of Japan is blatantly supporting something that is so wrong.
I don't believe
they
that.
are. What do you mean? The government are supporting it.
No. What are you
talking about?
The label of I would more say that a label of a country is its internet identity. I would say that would be a label of a country, because that is more. No, I believe like getting to this new age that we're living in, the label of a country is what the country is shown to be more so on the internet rather than what the government does. Because the government, we've got to get out of this idea that if our government does something, then that's what your country does, because that's ridiculous.
Sure, I'm not talking about anything like what the reality is of what the country wants as a whole, democratic consent, whatever. I'm saying that within the system, the official system, the government of Japan are supporting the whalers.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
But Japan,
so I don't care who is making the decisions. It might be a very minute population of Japan, but the label of Japan, the government, and the label on the global sphere, where there are all these labels of different governments, the US government over here and the Australian government here, the Japanese government.
So just don't say Japan. So Japan's government.
The brand of the Japanese government.
So say Japan. It's
on the
very
global
specific. You got to be specific. So say
I don't think Japanese. I think everyone out there knows exactly what I mean.
No. When you say Japan, no, it's definitely not. It's integral for us to be able to get our head around how we describe the world that we live in. So the Japanese government is supporting whaling.
Yes.
So Japan isn't.
That's what I said.
Japan isn't.
Yeah. The Japanese government...
The country of Japan isn't supporting whaling.
But I'm talking about on the global political sphere.
The population and the country of Japan is not supporting whaling.
Comes to the play area and they say what they want.
This is really important.
The Japan part of it are supporting whaling.
No. The Japanese government are supporting whaling.
Okay, I'm not talking about this anymore. I understand what you're trying to say.
So until let's say, for interest's sake, if the Japanese population was in the streets protesting for them to support whaling, then you could say that, because I think it's a really important distinction.
But you know I don't mean that though, so I don't see there's no point talking about. We've got to be
really politically correct, and excuse the pun, with what we're saying. When it comes to talking about populations versus corporations and government.
Sure, but the only reason that the word Japan exists because it's encompassing a political boundary on Earth, which is only in existence because of some people in charge decided that was where the boundary was. So Japan represents the political boundary, which is a political process, which is the government. So when I'm talking about people, I will say the people who live in Japan think this or whatever, because they're not like, that's not how I would say. I wouldn't talk about any representation of any person in that way anyway. Like that Japan think this. I would no one would ever say that. No one would say Japan think this if they're talking about the people of Japan.
No.
We're talking about the political body of Japan.
Japan to me, or any country to me, is just a geographic fucking landmark.
Exactly. So why would you describe the people in it as Japan?
No,
that's not. It's just the Japanese label of in the political playground.
Yeah, certainly. But I'm just saying,
what it means.
when you're speaking, when we're doing podcasts like such.
No, I don't think it's. I know what you're trying to say,
it's very
but
important.
I think people out there know exactly what I meant.
No. They might, and some mightn't. But it's very important.
It's been clarified.
It's very important to distinguish.
Can everyone please tell us whether or not you understand what we're talking about? That'd be great.
So everyone, I think it's very important. I mean, even for you guys, even for everyone in conversation, to make sure that we develop our language in a way of that we are talking directly and not hypothetically or metaphorically or fucking, in analogies about anything. It's extremely important to say that, certain particular decisions or thoughts come from certain particular people and not from, because it's just such an easy way for people to be able to have a cop out and go, well, they're like that and they're like that and fucking that's it. And when it's not really, for interest's sake, with the Iraq War, there was the biggest protest on the history of the planet against the fact of the Western world going to war with a lesser third world country or a second world country, and nothing happened. So people don't want violence. People don't want animal cruelty. This comes from the higher echelon of our society.
Well, you know what? The only reason this
have invested interests and want the status quo to remain.
The only reason this discussion is even relevant is because it's at this point in time, governments simply aren't representing the democratic will of the people. That's why we're even having to have this conversation. Seriously, it should be the fact that when I say Japan, I mean everybody in Japan, because they have a democratic government who are representing the majority of the will of the people, and they're doing what the people want. And then so we shouldn't even have to have this conversation. But the fact is that governments are not representing the people, so we can't just assume that everybody in that country, because the government is behaving in a certain way, that everybody in that country wants them to. Even a majority.
Maybe in North Korea it's like that. Maybe that everyone in North Korea wants their government to act like the way they do because they don't know any better.
I don't know. Maybe they've got it down pat.
Unfortunately, like the situation with freedom and free thinking and the free thinking and freedom and democracy. Well, the belief of democracy, the illusion of democracy, makes a country extremely rich through people working hard and being extremely creative. But unfortunately, what it does, it creates a lot of sort of protest movements and a lot of, all the fundamentals that America was based on made the country the biggest empire the world has ever seen, militarily, economically. It's collapsing now.
Because it was a democracy?
No, because of the concept of freedom. Free thinking, free individual who has the right to achieve and be anything they want, which was trumped communism and trumped socialism and trumped everything. You're not necessarily a member of the state, which we all know now is bullshit with capitalism and democracy. You were just another, piece of the pie. You're not free. You're just another cog in the wheel. But the concept of that, the illusion that you are a free individual to do free things, makes you work harder, makes you strive for more, and makes the state extremely rich and powerful through you actually believing that you're working for yourself, but really the harder you work, the more you actually just pay to the state. Unfortunately, sometimes it can come back to bite the state on the arse. The fact of wanting people to believe that they're free and can get. Anyway, this might relate perfectly into actually the whole reason why we press record and we decided to do a podcast, which is we're going to do a podcast on the workplace and the different situations in the workplace. And how actually now that we're talking about it, how democracy and how social systems around the world can feed right back into the workplace.
Do you want me to talk now? That was an opening.
That was the opening. I thought I was doing quite well. Just feed off that. Think about that for a second and then work all that.
Well, what was there a question or something?
No. Well, no, it was a statement.
What feeds back into the
blind statement.
Social different ways of operating in
country. We've all been in different workplaces, haven't we? We've all been in ruthless workplaces. We've all been in nasty ones. We've been in amazing ones, which we wanted to stay in forever, but eventually, that has to come to an end. Most of the time, we've been in a number of different scenarios where workplaces have been positive or negative for different reasons, good, bad bosses, different styles of management, different styles of companies, corporations.
Well, let's think about why we go to work.
What works better?
Why do we go to work?
What are you interested in? What do you want out of your workplace?
What I want out of my workplace? Well, I think it depends what I'm going into work for, and I think that most people go to work firstly because they have to feed themselves. So that's the first thing that needs to be taken care of. then if you've managed to do that, then you might start to have the luxury of thinking about doing something because you like it.
Yeah.
And establishing some sort of a long-term, satisfying progression of achievement that gets you somewhere, which you feel makes you worthwhile and contribute in a way which, accentuates your